Otra edición doble del podcast por Canal 13. Un saludo muy especial. Mi nombre es Alejandro Marín. Mi primer invitado se llama Tom. Hace parte de una de mis bandas favoritas de rock que ha salido de Gran Bretaña en los últimos 10 años. Ellos aparecieron por allá en 2011 en un listado de la BBC de Londres conocido como The Sound of 2011, con una canción increíble llamada The Heat. Luego de eso empezamos a conocer sus otras canciones como Busy Earning, y más adelante, en 2014-2015, los vimos presentar un nuevo larga duración titulado Forever, que los hizo volver a Colombia. Ellos han estado en 3 ocasiones en nuestro país, y en esta ocasión, durante esta pandemia, estuvieron grabando un nuevo disco en el que incluyen colaboraciones muy interesantes de músicos británicos y de coros musicales como nunca antes lo habían hecho. Ellos son un dúo fascinante de música funk, de música electrónica y de música rock en general. Se llaman Jungle. Él es Tom de Jungle y es mi primer invitado de esta edición doble del podcast por Canal 13. How are you? How you doing? How you been? It's been a while.
Yeah, it has. We're good. We are sort of feeling our way back into the world, releasing some new music, which is really exciting. And yeah, just getting on with things. It's hot in London at the moment, which is good and bad at the same time, because London's not very good for the heat. But yeah, look, ultimately, we feel like we've made a great record that we love, and we're really excited to share it with the world.
Hey, take me through it, man. I want to know everything about this new album because, you know, we're big fans. You know, we love the Forever stuff, and we had you here perform it, and it was such an amazing moment for us, you know, live. You know, I don't know if you remember how everyone just...
Of course.
You know, it was...
How could I forget? How could I forget?
Everyone went insane with that one, man. It was crazy.
That's definitely one of the most memorable shows of that campaign, for sure.
Definitely. I thought it was just it was so passionate and emotional, and it was such a joy to be a part of it, you know.
Yeah, thank you. Well, look, we'll come back whenever we can, as soon as we can, I promise.
Definitely, and I look forward to being there and, you know, hanging with you guys once again. But take me through this new process and what it was like and how it was different to Forever and the whole thing. I gotta say before you start that I already bought the special edition, the whole thing, the cap, the T-shirt, the vinyl, the whole thing.
Muchas gracias. Well, listen, I think ultimately this record and everything that surrounds it, the visuals, the videos, the whole concept is confidence and energy and capturing an idea in its essential form, you know, not overcomplicating your ideas, not second guessing, you know, having the belief in your own creativity and the people around you that inspire you, having the belief that like you're going to make something that you love and that you're invested in and that you want to go back to time and time again. And we're just really proud of it. I think we've ultimately made a record that we feel like we've been trying to make for the last 10 years, if that makes sense. Do you know what I mean? Like, I think we've finally sort of reached the level of intensity and sonic clarity that we've been reaching for a long time now. So it feels like Jungle's kind of come home in a way.
Yeah. Did the pandemic influence the music, or were you all set to do this new album even as the Forever campaign was moving along?
We were pretty much ready to go. I mean, the pandemic was obviously, you know, terrible for a lot worse for people other than us as well. You know, we were in a very privileged position that we weren't meant to be on tour. We didn't have anything like huge cancelled, but you know, it kind of put the brakes on the process of making the record. Potentially, like I'd say that like 90% of the record was done by the end of 2019, and we had to try really hard not to overthink it. Do you know what I mean? We had to like freeze time at the end of 2019. And then when we knew that we'd be able to sort of release stuff and it might be a little bit better for the touring horizon, we kind of got back into gear on the record and finished it off sort of, you know, over Christmas and the beginning of this year. So, because for us, like the fourth dimension of Jungle is the fans and the live experience. And I think we wouldn't have wanted to release the record and not be able to give the fans the opportunity to see it in the flesh. You know what I mean? I think that's so important for us, and it really validates what we do because we stand on stage and we have people singing our songs to us, and it feels good because you've connected with people and you feel like you've made a little bit of a difference somewhere.
It seems to me as though ever since you guys started and we started playing your music and discovering you've grown not only as musicians, spiritually, personally, but also as a band. Because back in 2011, 2010, I don't know, it was like I would see you guys lurking in the shadows, and then, you know, when we started chasing after you guys, going to Mexico City, and then, you know, seeing you perform here at Stereo Picnic, like you two guys would be the center of attention. But then, you know, once we saw you in May of 2019 perform, it was like a big family, right? It felt like, oh my God, this is like a project that's getting huge. Am I right about this?
Yeah, I think naturally we've progressed and we've become more confident. You know, at the end of the day, we never really saw ourselves as performers. I think we've always enjoyed being behind the camera, behind the desk, as producers, directors, you know, creatives who have a vision but aren't necessarily confident enough to stand at the front of the stage and deliver that day in, day out. And so, you know, a lot of the early part of Jungle was about essentially like being quite shy and protecting ourselves. And then as you get older and wiser and you learn to love yourself a little bit more, and you learn to respect your process and what you do as an artist, rather than sort of relying on the people around you to give you that, it gives you the confidence to open up and be more brave. And I think now at this moment in time, like we're at our like ultimate of that, you know what I mean? We're playing music on stage with our really good friends who are just like unbelievably talented. I can't describe how good these guys are. And yeah, and I think that's reflecting in the music that we're putting on record now, you know?
Yeah. When you start recording, does everyone in the group, do all the friends participate in the recording, or is it just you two guys, you know, figuring out what the idea is going to be like and then just bringing them over?
It depends, really. I mean, like sometimes some of the songs it's just me writing, or it's just Josh, or it's me and Josh, or it's a load of people in a studio. So the process we now have is incredibly fluid, and that's really beneficial because like it just means that you're not second guessing. You know what I mean? You're just letting everything come out in its natural way at its natural time. You're not sort of prescribing what it should be, what it should sound like. So we're just very reactive. And I think what we've tried to do on this record, well, what we've achieved on this record is capturing all of the ideas in their like earliest form, and trying not to over edit, trying not to think about if it's right or wrong. You know what I mean? If it feels good and it happened quickly, it's going on the record, because that's where you're going to get that real synergy of energy, sort of naivety. There's this childish element to this record, I think, finally, that we've found again. Like it's playful. So yeah, it's just all kind of reflecting back to how we feel as people at the moment, like very confident, very happy, and just excited to be back out playing music and making records. How
long does it take you to get it all together after you finish the campaign and get in the studio?
Yeah, so the thing is, when we're on tour, we're always sort of working here and there when we can get the mic out on a tour bus or set up a little room in a venue where we've got like a mini studio. Then we're always kind of trying out things and experimenting. But I guess like it was good to we took a bit of time off in 2019, had a few holidays which were well deserved, and then yeah, we just sort of naturally, it comes to a point basically where we draw a line in the sand and we go, what's good, what's not, and all the stuff that's been sort of in the ring, or all the ideas, all the little like bits, then sort of get collaged together, and we make a record out of it all.
Right. Where does a record start? Where does the album start? Does it start with a particular song?
I mean, it has to eventually, right? You've got to start with something.
I know it's kind of obvious, but I guess I'm asking, like the first songs that we hear are "Keep Moving." We get "Keep Moving" right off the bat. Is that the first one that pops up in the creation of the album?
Probably not. I think probably like "Fire" and "Talk About It" are two of the earliest tracks that we wrote. And then it's just about piecing it together and what we think the audience want to hear first, what we think is a really good representation of the new direction we've gone in. You know, I think "Keep Moving" is, you know, it's not unfamiliar as Jungle. but I think it's more bold. I think it's got a little bit more like energy, and it's the first time that we've delivered that real big choir and that group vocal that we've kind of always really tried hard to achieve, but never really managed it. And finally, you have the confidence to put a choir together of friends and colleagues and singers from around London, and you get that sort of magic. And that was really surprising to us. So Keep Moving was like, this is still jungle, but there's something different here, and there's something new for people. And then with Talk About It, I think that's kind of the first track that we've put out now where I think people are beginning to understand that there is a new direction and there is a sort of a step up in a way.
Are there strings on Keep Moving?
Yeah, very much so. We worked with an incredible string arranger, and did a big session at the end of 2019. And it's amazing, man, because you suddenly, it just brings it to life. And I think we've always loved that disco sound, that 70s feel, whether it's the Bee Gees, whether it's Donna Summer, do you know what I mean? It's like, and when you're finally like hearing it played on your music and really working, but also feeling new, do you know what I mean? I don't think we're just copying it. I don't think it's a pastiche of those styles. I think what we've done is managed to find a way of updating it and bringing it to a new audience.
Absolutely. And it's refreshing and incredibly exciting. Once you hear those strings kick in, it's like it really gives you this adrenaline rush, Yeah. It's really cool.
I think you can hear the realness, and that's potentially what we lose in a lot of music these days.
That was another cool thing that happened right after you guys kept on moving towards the campaign of Forever, and was watching you release this collection of DJ sets and music that you loved. And I'd love to, if you could take me through the process of what that was like for you guys to sit and pick your favorites and put them out there, on Spotify and Apple Music and all that stuff.
Yeah, sure. And we ended up doing a late night tales, which is great.
I know.
It's just really, we've always loved music, and I think when you find a track and you have a connection to it, you want other people to have that connection too. You want other people to be as excited as you are when they hear that music. And we've got folders and folders and folders of music that we DJ, that we listen to, that inspire certain moods. And so it was really fun sort of getting into the world of playlisting and radio DJing and selecting, because that's something that we've always been super passionate about. And, ultimately I'd love to I'd love to be on the radio. I think I'd really enjoy sharing things that I love with people and hoping that they feel the same way about them.
You ever gotten an offer to do that?
Not yet. I'm here. I can move to Colombia if you need me.
You should, man.
I'll learn Spanish, I promise.
You don't have to. I mean, we can do some translation or figure out a way for people. I mean, music is a universal language.
We'll just overdub it all. We'll overdub it all, man. That's fine.
Yeah. Well, tell me more about more songs. Tell me what's coming up so that I have a little bit more content to share before August hits.
Sure. So between now and the record coming out, there's some really exciting stuff happening. We've got a collaboration with quite a well-known dance music producer. I can't name him or her at the moment, but that was something that happened when we met them in LA and sent them a load of stuff, and they worked it into a really cool track. So that's going to be dropping quite soon, I think. And then a few more tracks from the record, something called a track called Truth, a track called Romeo, which features a US rapper called Bars. We met him at a festival in New York City, and we'd just come off stage having played a set and had a really good time. Like, I remember someone gave me this huge stuffed bear, and I sat him down at the side of the stage and had a good laugh with the audience about all of that. And yeah, he just came into the dressing room at the end of the show and was like, "Yo, you guys are fucking sick." And we just got chatting and had a couple of beers and had some food and just hung out all afternoon and evening backstage at this festival and just really connected with him. And then when we were in London in 2019 finishing off the record, he texted us out of the blue and was like, "Yo, I'm in town. What are you doing?" We were like, "Well, we're at the fucking studio finishing the album. Come and do some work." And we kind of cooked that track up quite quickly, which is amazing. He was just such a cool guy to work with. And look, we just really, really hope that we can get out to Colombia soon and play some shows, because we have such a deep connection with the Colombian audience and our audience across Latin America as well, man. Like there's just such a synchronicity between us and the music we make and your vibe as a community. It's just something that we didn't really expect to experience. And from the moment we set foot in Central and Southern America, we've just felt so welcome. And, you know, it's crazy to think that we've played in Colombia like 3 times. We've played in Peru. We played in Quito in Ecuador. Like that was fucking crazy, man. Like, so we just want to get back, really. We really miss it.
Yeah, we'll look forward to having you here, man. This is the first time collaborating with a rapper, right?
Yeah, 100%. Really exciting. And I think it just shows that we have so much confidence in jungle. Do you know what I mean? Jungle is something that is so much bigger than us. And I think for a while we maybe got wrapped up in making it too much about us. And so having the confidence to put other people's voices on the record and allow them the space to represent what jungle means to them and what it means to us, I think that's a really cool thing.
Let's talk about the videos. We've always talked about the videos from the very beginning when you guys started doing Busy Earning Time, and how dancing plays such a key role in what you guys do visually, and how it's evolved and turned into this incredible, almost, I don't know how to put it, but it's a style, you know, it's an aesthetic. It becomes a part of what jungle is about. You can almost not detach dancing from jungle and jungle from dancing, you know. Let's talk a bit about that.
Well, that's great. I mean, that's the concept from day one. I think it'll be so cool when we look back in 20, 30, 40 years time at what we did in this period of our creativity. I think it'll be so cool to see that we had a vision and stuck with it and really believed so much in the power of that singular vision to carry through across a whole career, essentially. Like, I can honestly never see us doing a video that doesn't have dance in it, because it would just feel so unnatural. It would feel false and sort of anti-jungle. You know, dance is one of the four corners for us. You know, it's the most simple idea. It's not particularly, you know, we can't claim that it's an original idea to put dancers in a music video, but I think that's the beauty of it.
But it is different. It is very different. We were talking to my producers at the TV network a few days before we got the possibility to talk to you. And they were like, you know, you think we could get Jungle again to talk on TV? And I was like, sure, we'll figure out a way. But I'd like to know a little bit, like, what's your interest? And they were like, it's just the way they seem to grab dancing and put it in a whole new level. You know, it's not like you say, it's not an idea that you just came up with yourselves, but it is very different. You know,
well, I think it's about working with incredible people and finding talent that is so unique and singular, whether it's choreographers or individual dancers, and just allowing them to tell the story, not necessarily giving them too much direction. You know, and obviously we have an incredibly strong visual aesthetic. You know, we try and shoot everything with one shot, as much as that can be very painful at times. But it's that energy, and maybe you're right. I think maybe because they are so pure, it is just dance. It is just about that group. It is just about that one. It's almost like one location, one talent, and watch their magic. And potentially we differentiate ourselves in the fact that we don't edit our videos a lot. There's no cutting, there's no tricks, there's no effects, there's no CGI, there's nothing. There's not even us occasionally turning up and pretending to be singing down a microphone, you know? So yeah, maybe I guess they are singular and unique in that respect, but that's just potentially our aesthetic and what we want to see on the screen, you know.
Have you ever flirted with the idea of doing anything else in the videos, now that you mentioned that you've never really appeared in them?
I can honestly say that we have fought very hard to remove ourselves from our videos, because like I said, we see ourselves as directors, not performers. And I think we really enjoy the process of making movies and the process of making albums. We don't necessarily see ourselves as pop stars. Do you know what I mean? And so as much as we can, we want to maintain that role as the creators, the directors, the producers, and allow the talent that we surround ourselves with to tell a slightly more outward facing story.
Tom, it's great seeing you once again, even if it's virtually. I look forward to seeing you in 2022 performing here in Colombia and wherever else you're going to be. I suppose, you're getting ready for a big festival season, which is going to be crazy after all this.
I really hope so. Yeah. Thank you so much, man. And I can't wait to have a beer with you in person and have a chat about Rick and Morty.
Take good care. Take good care, man. Take good care. Say hello to everyone.
Gracias.
Gracias. Chao. Gracias por continuar en el podcast por Canal 13. Mi nombre es Alejandro Marín y mi siguiente invitada es la cantante y lideresa de una de las bandas más importantes que ha salido de Escocia desde Garbage en 1995, con la salvedad de que, al igual que Shirley Manson de Garbage, esta chica llamada Lauren Mayberry y su banda Chvrches viven en Los Ángeles, de la misma manera que pasó con Garbage en la década de los 90 en Wisconsin, en los Estados Unidos. Lauren Mayberry está como invitada especial para hablar del nuevo larga duración, el cuarto larga duración de esta banda escocesa que acaba de coronarse una de las colaboraciones más envidiables de todos los tiempos en estas nuevas épocas, con Robert Smith de The Cure, una canción fascinante llamada How Not to Drown. Ellos son Chvrches y ella es Lauren Mayberry, mi invitada muy especial en esta segunda parte del podcast por Canal 13. What's that room you're in?
This is like a little kind of office. There's a cat there, like an office writing room kind of thing. So this is where I work most of the time.
Okay.
So
cool. Yeah. And those two little big records in the back. Tell me the story of those two.
It looks very braggy, doesn't it? Yeah. So that's for the first album. It's a little squint. But that's the first album and the second album for out of the UK. So those are UK discs. And yeah, I didn't put them up. I felt like self-conscious about it, but my partner put them on the wall when we moved into this space. Because not that I'm not proud of it, I just don't want people to come in and think that I love myself that much, So yes, I hide it in the office, so it's only me that can see it.
When you look at those two things, besides, beating yourself up too much because what do you think? I mean, it's like in the blink of an eye, it's been 10 years, right?
Yeah. I guess I hadn't thought about that much until we started doing promo, and then I realized, well, wow, what happened to my 20s? Where did they go? But no, we've been so incredibly lucky, and especially when I look at stuff like that, I just think that that's because people cared about the music, like our band started off on the internet, and the reason that we got signed was because people found the band on SoundCloud and they liked the music and they sent it to their friends. And I feel like I never want to forget about that part of it, especially now when we haven't played shows in so long. I'm like, I think people get a bit swept away with their own ego and they think that the band is about what they have created, which is true, but your band couldn't, if nobody listened to it, if no fans came to the shows, if nobody cared about the music, then you just live in a vacuum. So yeah, I'm very grateful that people cared enough to let us do it for 10 years.
Did it hurt you to stop performing?
I think we were incredibly lucky with the timeline of the way that things rolled out, because we had planned to take most of 2020 off to make this record. And I know a lot of friends that we have weren't in that position. They were preparing to put out albums and had tours booked and had to cancel so many things. So I think we were lucky that the way things lined up. But at this point, we were saying the other day, this is the longest that any of us have ever gone without playing shows ever, not even in churches, but just since we were teenagers. Like at this point, it's almost 2 years. The last show we did was December 2019. So by the time we get back out, it will be 23 months since we've played shows. So yeah, that's kind of wild to think about, but I'm excited to do it. I feel like hopefully no band will ever complain about touring ever again. And I was saying to my partner the other day, I was like, I would watch the shittiest gig right now and I would love it. Like, it could be, I'm like, give me a high school band with PA feedback and warm beer and I will still love it. So I think, you know, hopefully that's something we can all take away from last year, is that you're very lucky to have anything that you have and we should appreciate it. So.
Do you think the live scenario or landscape will change after this?
I wonder. I don't know. I guess there's been a lot of change of like local promoters or venues that have changed hands and things during that time. But I don't know. Like for me as a music fan, I'm like, I think it's proven to me that some things can't be replaced. Like before 2020, I feel that there were so many conversations about streaming and technology and the advancement of that side of music, and going to festivals that were kind of abstract VR spaces. And I think that stuff is really important because sometimes bands don't tour in certain places or you can't afford to go to a show, and making music accessible in that way I think is incredibly important. But I watched a lot of live stream gigs last year and none of that is the same as experiencing music in a live format, because I always think that when I listen to records, it's like a really insular, isolated thing, because it's like that person's talking just to you, and then you experience that incredibly personal thing at a live show with other people, and it's a really specific energy that I don't think you can recreate.
Definitely not. Definitely not. I think that's not going to change, you know. But I do have this concurrent nightmare that it's going to be more expensive. You know, it's like I always say, oh my God, it's going to be more expensive because everybody's just got to make ends meet, and it's been 2 years of recession and the whole thing.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I guess from what I can tell from our tour, I'm like, the ticketing is the same as far as I can tell. And mostly what we've been talking about is just budgeting behind the scenes. So it's like figuring out how to make the tour float without gouging your fan base, and hopefully most people will think like that, I hope. But yeah, like I think it would be selfish of bands to be like, well, it's been a really hard year for us, and like it's been a really hard year for a lot of other people as well. So I don't think that you can then just expect your fans to float your existence. I don't think that's very nice. So hopefully, fingers crossed, that won't happen. I hope so too. Yeah, it doesn't seem like it's going to happen, but it's still, you know, like one main concern that I have. But I want to talk. I want to talk about Screen Violence, beginning with the name. How'd you pick it? Yeah. Well, weirdly, it was a band name that we'd never used. So back in 2012, when we were trying to name the band, we made this big Google document of potential names. Some of them were good, some of them were very bad. But this one we hovered over for a while, and then we didn't choose it because we thought it was too specifically 80s, and we didn't want the band to be pigeonholed as that. But it's a phrase I've thought about a lot over the course of time, and we all loved that era of like filmmaking and the music that was going along with it. Like so many of the synths that we use were on all those soundtracks, and like Vangelis and John Carpenter and all those guys invented the wheel that we now run with. So yes, I loved that idea. And then it was like summer 2019, I'd been looking through a bunch of archive stuff I had of the band, and I saw that title again. And this is the first time we named a record before we wrote it. Most of the time we'll write it all and then we'll name it after. But I thought, I was like, there's so many aesthetics and themes in this, and there's like a duality to it. Like it means what we think it means in terms of cinema, but it also can mean violence on screen, through screens, by screens. And it was a fun entry point to what the album ended up being. But if we'd made that album in normal circumstances, I think it would sound totally different to what the 2020 version of it does. And not that I'm grateful for anything that happened, because it was a terrible year in the world, but I think it was good for us to be forced to isolate, and I think we made a better record for it, I think.
Let's talk about the aesthetics and what you explore in this new album. Take me wherever you want to take me regarding that process.
I'm very proud of where we're at with the aesthetic of the album, because it feels like fully realized in a way that the other albums don't. Like, I'm really proud of every record we did, but I don't feel like we nailed those parts of it. I feel like the album campaigns I've loved the most as a fan when I was a kid and now are the ones that feel like you're on a journey with that artist and you're in this universe that they've built for you, and it's about them, but it's a place for you to live your life inside. And you know, most of the time you're like, oh, this is a press shot that's separate from the songs, and this is a video that's separate from the album art. And if you can have it all be really coherent and cohesive, I think that helps you tell your story more. And we've been working with a visual artist called Scott Kiernan, and we found him originally because he'd done a collaboration with Moog, the synthesizer company. Yeah. And we were watching the video and we were like, this is sick. I wonder who made this. And then I'd sent him like some mood boards I made and like a brief that I wrote about what I think the record's about, and that he made all these visuals. And yeah, I think especially online and for touring, like I hate when all bands post is like, buy my shit all the time. And I'm like, like, yes, you need to try and sell your record, but I feel like that's not helping you tell the story of your songs, and it's not fun for anybody. And God knows, like last year was fucking horrendous. Sorry, I keep swearing. It was really horrendous for people. And I think if you can provide any kind of escapism for other people, that's really great, and it helps you further connect what you're trying to connect, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. And you mentioned that to Zane on Apple Music One, and I wanted to take a minute to develop that idea of evading and, you know, just like leaving reality for a while. How did writing these songs and putting them together help you? And how did it happen? How did it help you escape?
Well, the guys and I have talked a lot about how the purpose and the meaning of the band within our lives changed a lot last year. Like, normally being in the band is quite a destabilizing force because of touring and constantly changing and moving, and it's like your life happens to the side of the band, and the band is this kind of Godzilla that stomps through it. But last year, when all that disappeared, the band became this kind of like centering thing that we did, and like we would meet up on Zoom at 12 every day, and we would do our writing, and it was very bizarre and otherworldly and strange the way it was for everybody. But once we got used to it, it felt like, okay, well, this is the new normal of what the band is, and it was nice to be in the band with the public sense of it, if that makes sense. And we hadn't really written like that since the first album, because the first album, nobody knows who you are. You're writing in a vacuum. You make what you want to make. And then after that, for better or worse, you are conscious of the fact that there is an audience. And I guess all of us, whether you're in the public eye or not, like there was no audience for anything. So it's just you inside your house. And especially for lyrics, I think that was an enforced writer's camp that I didn't really want. So like when I got to a point of being uncomfortable or being stuck on something, I can't leave and go get dinner and go to the pub or go to the cinema. I have to like sit with the discomfort of it. And I think it made the lyrics more honest, I think. And sorry, cats are fighting. And I'm grateful for that, I think, yeah. And it was nice to have the band I don't know, I wonder if that's why we wrote the kind of record that we made, because we all wanted to escape into something else. And I think that when you're creating something, you have that. When you're creating something, or when you're listening to something or watching a film or reading a book, like those are the times that we escape from our normal life. And it'll be interesting to take that on tour now, because it's this kind of snapshot of time, and now it will exist in this different space where we're all celebrating our different kind of escape. I don't know.
How are things? How do you see things happening for that point where you go out and perform it live? Are you guys already organizing and setting everything up? Are you guys ready for that?
We love planning. We love planning. So yes, we have most of like the live visuals figured out and figuring out how to do all the tech setup and stuff. So we're kind of in that space. And just because I think as a performer, you want to do the best job you can. But especially after this last year, I'm like, I want to put on the best show possible for anybody that's loved our band and anybody that's found found the songs during this time or come back to the songs during this time. I feel like it should be a celebration if you can, so I think we're working on it. It's going to be creepy because the album concept requires it to be creepy, but not too terrifying. Creepy but not terrifying. Yeah.
Let's talk about the creepy side of the album. Yes. Why would you say it's creepy but not terrifying?
Well, I think the whole concept of screen violence and the aesthetic, I think we're leaning into. I think some people find it uncomfortable just because some people don't like horror movies. Will you stop jumping around? What are you doing? Sorry, I'll remove this cat from the...
What's his name? What's her name?
Her name is terrible person. No. Her name is Cactus. She's not a terrible person. She's very nice. But whenever I she doesn't want in this room at any point in the day until I shut the door. And then she does it because it's a little like glass door you can see there. She just does this kind of Rocky montage on the door where she's just like doof, 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 with her paws trying to get in. So I let her in to make it quieter, and then she was fighting with the blind out the back. I'm like, that's good.
Is she the only one?
Sorry. There are two. They're like rescue cats from I got last year. So they have sometimes most of the time they sleep under the computer if I'm writing or stuff. So they are my lyric producers for screen violence. So you rescued them during the pandemic? Well, I got them from they were found in a box, which is very sad for them. They were found in a box, and I got them from a rescue center pet shop near us. And in theory, we'd said we were only going to get one, but when I got there, I was like, I'm absolutely not going to leave one behind. I'm not a terrible or horrible person, and I'm glad because then they have each other to play with, and I always think like one solitary pet is a bit like being in a country where you don't speak the language. Like they're constantly trying to, how would that pet communicate with us? Then it's not, I think it's nice if there's two because they can have their own subculture, if that makes sense.
I know, I should have done the same with my dog, man. I should have picked another one, but I guess.
But dogs, I feel like dogs want to hang out with humans more than cats do, or they feel like more excited about it as a concept. I don't know that. Like my cats are very nice. They're very nice to me. We're all very nice to each other. But I feel like dogs and humans have more in common or something. I don't know how to describe it.
It just seems as though dogs. Sometimes people compare. I'm on radio. I work in radio. So, and I was speaking to someone at Spotify or something, and they were saying, like the on-demand world is like a cat, and the radio and the radio is like a dog, and you could turn that and you could turn that around in the sense that dogs do feel like radio in the sense that they're always chasing after humans for them to listen to them.
Yes.
Whereas cats are very independent, and you can come say hello and they'll be okay, but they're more independent, so they feel sort of like a bit more on demand.
Until you shut the door to your office to try and do a radio interview, and then they want nothing but my attention all the time. So I'm sorry, I realize that's not very professional, but we're still working from home. We're doing what we can.
Yeah. Where exactly are you? Where's home? I mean, I haven't asked you that.
I'm in Los Angeles at the moment. Martin from the band is also here, and Ian is in Glasgow. And we did a couple of weeks of writing sessions here in February, March 2020, and then Ian went home because obviously everything was going upside down. So we did the rest of it remotely after that. So yeah, I'm grateful that we got a couple of weeks of writing where we could hash out just a bunch of ideas, and then it was easier to work those up over Zoom and audio movers. Whereas if we'd had to write completely in this space, I think that would have been harder because so much, I'm sure you found this, but so much of human interaction is based on like little bits of body language or tone or picking up cues that you just can't on Zoom and other things like that. So yeah, I feel glad that we got enough of it in the bag that we could then produce that out after the fact.
I was just going to ask you about that, about the process of putting everything together in these digital times, and how that affected inspiration and that sense of community that I guess you have when you're working with somebody else or with more somebodies, what was that like, and how were you able to put it all together and then get together? Did you spend a lot of time apart during the pandemic?
Yeah, we did. I guess we haven't seen Ian for over a year at this point. And then Martin and I, because the stay-at-home orders were so strict for a certain amount of time, we didn't really see him from about April until maybe August. So August was the last when I started going in to do final vocal takes. And then the rest of the time I would record those like demo vocals at home and then send them to Ian and Martin. And even outside of the writing, obviously I couldn't have made this record myself writing wise, but production wise, I'm like, I don't know anything about any of that. And I think we're incredibly lucky that Ian and Martin made the first two Chvrches albums and they have that background, because so many bands I know, if you can't get into a studio or you don't have a live room or something like that, you can't make a record. And I guess our band started in bedrooms and in a basement flat in Glasgow. So we were kind of able to re-employ that mentality and make the record like that, just with this extra challenge of not being in the same physical space. But I'm grateful that we have those kind of scrappy beginnings, because then we needed them when it came to album 4.
And you had the chance to work with Robert Smith, which is like one of the most surreal experiences that come with presenting this new album, and one of the reasons why I must say that I look forward to seeing you being booked at a festival somewhere in South America. Hopefully,
just in case we bring a special friend.
Hopefully in Colombia, but tell me all about it, because I really want to know.
It's honestly, if the band broke up tomorrow, I would be devastated, but I would feel like I'd done as much as I could do beyond my wildest dreams of what we could ever do, because we're all such huge fans of The Cure generally, and like his songwriting, his approach, his lyrics, like everything about all of that, he's completely one of a kind. And it was just such a random thing to have happened, because our manager had heard that they were making a new Cure album, and I think he had asked somebody to pass his email on to be like, I'd love to put the band up for support if touring happens, and we were like, oh my God, imagine opening for The Cure, what a dream. And then our manager got an email back from Robert Smith that just said, hello Campbell, I hear that you're looking for me, because he doesn't have a manager, because he does everything himself. And then our manager had to call us and be like, guys, I think I've done something, but I don't know what it is. And we're like, what do you want to ask for? And we were like, well, what can we ask? But I don't know. It feels insane to ask Robert Smith anything. So yeah, we just sent him a bunch of songs, and to see if he, just to be like, this is the new stuff, to see what you think about it generally. And then the conversation came about him being on How Not to Drown, and he sings on it. He played guitar and bass 6 on it, and yeah, it was just, I can confirm he is a wonderful, generous, kind, creative man. And of all the disappointing people of his era who eventually let us down, I'm like, no, like he's still so excited about music and about making music. And I think that's the nicest thing that you can say about anybody. And he's so generous with that. So, yes.
That's precious information. That's amazing to hear, because like you said, so many people from that generation have let us down, Yes, they really have. And I don't know, it was so exciting to talk to somebody. Like, he was so involved in all parts of it, in terms of like what he was playing and mix notes and all those things. But he also was so kind in terms of making sure he wasn't taking space away from somebody else, which is insane to me. Because I'm like, you're Robert Smith, please take up all the space. I would like you to push me out of this song completely, and you just do it. And I will stand beside you and play tambourine, and that's what I want. But no, like, he's just so mindful and thoughtful. And I feel bad talking about him in a way, because I know he doesn't do very many interviews and is quite consciously removed from that kind of public space. But as the canary that went into that particular mine, I can tell you that he is just as amazing as what we all think he is. So
yes.
And I must also say that even though you would have liked to let him have all that space, it seems like a perfect match. It sounds beautiful.
Thank you. That's very kind. Like the first time we got a demo of it through, we hadn't heard anything that he'd done, or he was very clear with what he planned. But when we got the demo through, the first time I heard the chorus where we both sing together, and he had written in these incredible but such Robert Smith harmonies in it, that floored me, because I was like, what? Not only is he singing words that I wrote, but he's singing along with me, and he's taking the harmony, and it's this weird, cool, strange Cure harmony. And I was like, what? What is life? What is going on? Like, it doesn't make any sense.
Amazing. I gotta let you go because I got a couple more minutes. But before I let you go, I wanted to ask you, because a good friend of mine who's a big fan of yours says that you were a journalist.
Oh, yeah, yes. Yes, I did a journalism master's at university. So I'd done some like music writing and like sub-editing, copy editing, that kind of stuff. And I was working as a production runner when Chvrches started. So I don't think I was a bad music journalist. Not bad as in like I feel like I had, yes, I wasn't evil, but I think I wasn't good at it, because even then I would review albums as, I think these are the references. It's maybe not for me, but I appreciate how much time and energy they put into that, and it isn't that difficult for anyone to do. And that's a rubbish review. That's not helpful to anybody. But I think it's hard to write about music when you make music. In theory, it would make you better at it because you know more about it. But I think it just makes you more mindful of like how hard that process is to create something good, you know? So yes, I had moved into like production running, getting people coffees and walkie-talkies and that kind of stuff. So yeah.
Do you still, follow up on journalism, read stuff? Do you have any favorite journalists or stuff like that?
I think my relationship with it has changed a bit since I've been in a band, and I think I had to I used to follow a lot of music culture stuff, but then I had to kind of unfollow, because once you know how the sausage is made, and you've seen too much, you can't enjoy it in the same way. But I've been really enjoying there's a writer called Lizzie Goodman, and she
is awesome. Meet me in the bathroom.
Yes, and she has a new podcast. Sorry to talk about podcasts, but she has a podcast that's called Difficult Artist. And so far, I've listened to one with Trent Reznor and one with Liz Phair, and she talks to people, but there's just these really good in-depth interviews about how they create. And I think on a nerdy level, it's everything I want. And I prefer that kind of journalism to, I feel like a lot of music journalism, not through the fault of the writers, but because of the way that the internet and media is working, has become really like gossip oriented. And I've definitely seen stuff about us where I'm like, I didn't say that, or, well, I did say that, but then there was about 2 more paragraphs after that, but you took one sentence. So I think it's hard for you to, I just need to not see it in that way. But I love a good long form interview with somebody that I love to get more insight into them. But I don't want to know gossip about like Nick Cave. I want to know how Nick Cave made his album. I don't want to have people
Definitely.
So
definitely. Yeah, it's all about that click, I gotta tell you. It's a shame.
Yeah. Tough times.
Thank you very much for taking the time. I loved meeting you virtually. I hope to see you perform soon with the band.
I hope so. We really, really want to make it and do it on this album. So yeah, thank you for the really interesting chat and for making the time. And hopefully we'll see you if we come down.
Somos más que 13.